the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what is going on, Automotive Nation? I'm Jason Harris, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason, where I get to talk to, well, pretty much anybody and everybody I want to talk to that's making some real moves and bringing real operational value to the automotive industry. And my guest today definitely does that. Guys, I'm excited. I'm excited for this podcast. I'm glad that you guys are joining us. This is going to be a fun conversation. Don't be surprised if we go down a couple rabbit holes because, you know, when you get two good friends together, that's just what's going to happen, guys. But we got a great topic today. We're going to talk about the 4.5 things. The 4.5 things dealers get wrong about their website. And today, guys, I have the one, the only, the oh so famous, he paid me to say this. No, I have Eric with me from Dealer Teamwork. Eric, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm great, Jason. Great to see you. Thank you for having me on. Wonderful to be here again.
Oh, man, I'm excited to get into today's conversation. I know we prepared a little bit for this kind of before we got on the call, and we have some notes, but then there's some that I know we're just going to kind of go off and we're going to find some fun rabbit holes. But for everybody out there watching and listening, hey, if you guys are going to NADA, this is a conversation you guys need to be listening to. And even if you're watching this after NADA, this is still an incredibly important conversation that you guys need to be listening to just to have this year prepped and ready. Eric, here's what I like to do, because I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story. Because I'm just fundamentally fascinated how in the world anybody gets into the automotive industry. So if you don't mind, for like the 5 people out there that don't know who you are, let's kick it off with a little origin story and how you got started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to make it as fun and brief as possible. But in another life, a long time ago, I actually worked for Auto Trader magazines, if anybody remembers those. I can remember being a kid and just loving those magazines on the racks outside the store, the convenience stores. I'd always take them and read through them, as a teenager. But then, ironically enough, I got a job there, and then that eventually led to some website design work and some web development work with a college fraternity brother of mine, and we had a lot of success with that. And I was so young and naive, Jason. My goal was, hey, why don't I go make websites for car dealers, not knowing anything about the ecosystem that existed at the time and, as we see it now. So I knew nothing about dealer.com and DealerOn and any of the other sites that, the platforms. So we started building sites for other companies and other industries. But long story short, that eventually led to building a website for a new upstart independent car dealership that I'm sure people have heard me mention before, called Auction Direct USA. They built the website for it, made a great partnership and relationship with the owners and the founders, and they brought me on to be on the corporate team, and we launched the new dealership with their new website, and we turned that little no-name startup into the #1 used car independent dealership in the country based on volume for many years running. So we were doing about 8,000 used cars a year. So we had a lot of fun with that. And then became entrenched in the industry. Didn't really know anybody. Started to meet some people at the conferences. Got my name out there. Started speaking a little bit, and then that eventually led to me going to the other side, and I became a consultant. And then met some really, really good friends, namely my partner, Sean Stapleton, and we have Dealer Teamwork. We're actually in our 10th year now. And, we've got a patented platform called the MPOP that creates and distributes vehicle merchandising and marketing information for all the channels, and just, puts it all together into one nifty solution. So, we're really proud of what we've done.
I like the fact that you used the word nifty.
By the way, I'm just going to throw it out there. Had to throw it in there.
Yeah, I'm going to say, guys, for everybody out there watching, listen, I'm going to say it's a little bit more than nifty. All right. Look, you guys have been in business for a decade. I've been a big fan of the solution for many, many years. And I do really call it a solution because I love you guys' approach. You guys really approached it as it's an operational value, right? It's not like when we first started in websites. And look, by the way, it doesn't surprise me at all that you got in and then you were bit by the auto bug a little bit. And it's what, like, once it's in your blood, man,
Right.
good luck getting it out, right? It's like you're a lifer, right? Once you're in,
Absolutely.
so I greatly admire the way that you guys have approached this, and not only just the strategy that you guys have created, but just this is like real online operations. There is a digital dealership, and there's my physical dealership, and I think you guys were very early to say like this is a major importance. And now it's funny, we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording. There was one point in time that I got into fights with people on why they needed a website. And I'm sure you did too. Do you remember any of those arguments?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was baked into the name Auction Direct. We wanted to literally mimic eBay at the time. And we had a portion of the site that was flipped in terms of your SRPs and VDPs. We flipped it and we made that an auction version. It's where you could literally bid on the vehicles. And it was our hook, and it worked, and it got a lot of attention. But we were a little bit ahead of the game at the time. But yeah, I mean, that led to everything that we're doing today. Because I mean, Sean was a dealer. A lot of our other executives on the team and other employees were all dealers as well. And so we understood what the problems were. And I can remember saying back then, Jason, it was like, why do the vendors keep pointing fingers at each other? Why do they blame the others? Why can't somebody just have a solution that works and does what they promise in terms of whether it's driving traffic, converting leads, helping with operational excellence, anything and everything. And my ultimate goal, again, I was young and naive, and I had this pie in the sky dream of one day having a solution that actually worked, that people trusted, and the people that you spoke to knew what they were talking about, and actually gave you the right guidance and recommendations. And that's honestly all we could ever ask for. And that's I can't, I can honestly say every day and every night that that's what we do. That's what we aim to do.
I remember when I first learned, all right, about dealer teamwork, and I first saw the first solution. And not a lot of people know this, but like one of my very first jobs before auto, and yes, I had like one job before auto. Otherwise than that, I've literally spent my entire career or professional working time in auto, is I worked for this small company called Radio Shack. I know, Eric, I'm dating myself now, right? Some people are listening right now may not even have any idea what I'm actually talking about, right? But I remember looking at your guys' platform, I'm going like, this is like what good Radio Shack is. It's like, you got questions, we got answers, and you guys did such a good job. And you guys, of course, evolved, and then even I think it probably just gotten better with that thesis of just like, hey, customers are coming, they got questions, we need to be able to answer that. And that should be our objective as a company, to get them the information as quick as possible, because it earns the trust and the right to then get into a conversation. Here, I know we got a few topics. I want to get into kind of our first one today, because we're going to talk about the 4.5 things dealers get wrong about their website. All right. Our first one is what dealers get wrong about performance. Like why traffic alone doesn't equal growth, and what actually matters when it comes to engagement, conversion, and ROI. These 3-letter words and big terms we like to throw around. So this is a pretty big topic, but I'll just get your initial thoughts on what dealers get wrong when it comes to performance.
What dealers get wrong with, you cut out on the last part.
As far as like website performance, what their thoughts are.
Oh, yeah, there's so many places to start. I mean, I would say right now, one of my hot buttons, or two of my biggest hot buttons, and one of them obviously ties back to what we do at Dealer Teamwork in terms of providing the solution. We call it internally, by the way, we call it COPE, create once, publish everywhere. So it starts with the website. And you obviously you need good content. Everybody knows that. Not saying anything earth-shattering there, but it's the way that it's styled and structured and implemented, obviously, onto the website. So you need some type of landing page. And today's time, obviously, everybody should be really geared towards and focused on understanding user intent. Trying to predict what they want. That's obviously at the crux of Google's foundational elements too. So they're trying to predict what somebody does. There's no reason why your website can't do it.
For sure.
You can refer back to that as like, we'll touch on that later, but that chain of thought type of mindset.
Mhm.
You know, consumers go through a stage, and so why doesn't the website go through a stage, or at least assist with that? So in my opinion, it starts with the landing page. You got just specials in general. You got vehicles for sale in general. You got body style. Some people know they want an SUV. They don't know what kind. They don't know the trim. And I know we like to focus on the pricing and the payments, but there's stages before that. And
and to your point, real quick, I just want to add to that, because for everybody out there watching, listening, because this is real important, right? Because I think too often we think of our website as just kind of a glorified pricing, solution. When, guys, look, 90% of that customer's journey, and guys, I just recently bought a car, so trust me, I'm even in the auto business, and I can literally attest to this. All right, 90% of that customer's journey is happening online. It is not enough that you're just providing incentives and prices. Like, you need to provide a shopping experience. And I know, Eric, that's where you were going. So I just really wanted to highlight real quick that, guys, there's a big difference between just putting out inventory and price versus providing a shopping experience. And I want to dive a little deeper in that with you.
Yeah. So touching on that chain of thought, like I said before, it's like we don't move, customers don't move randomly. They always follow a pattern, whether it's comparing options or, narrowing their choices. Then they validate price, but there's obviously the trust confirmation phase. Then they take some type of action. And so having an experience that lets you go through that, instead of opening up a site and just, start your digital retailing experience now. Yeah. Yes. I'm sure you saw it. Everybody did just recently. What they say, 28% of the people start digital retailing and only 7% finish it. And between you and me, I think those numbers might even be inflated from there.
I have a gut feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still such a small number. I saw people commenting on online where they were saying, oh, geez, I remember those numbers, those predictions coming out from COVID, and saying, oh, this is going to be the accelerator and it's going to pick up steam. And, who knows, 5 years from now, 80, 90% of the customers will be doing that, just like they do with Tesla. Well, that hasn't happened, and it's not going to anytime soon.
I'm glad you brought up Tesla real quick, because I think everyone thinks it's a retail experience, but if you can't provide the customer a shopping experience before the retail experience, and everyone goes, well, Tesla did it. No, they didn't. Has anybody gone to a Tesla website? It's actually a great shopping experience. I get to compare. I get to see all these different things. Like, I mean, I am shopping before I'm putting anything into a cart. And I'm with you, because I think a lot of the industry, not the great operators that listen to the show, by the way, because I'm gonna tell you right now, they listen to the show because they know better, right? Like, you can't just put a ring on it.
Right.
You gotta date a little bit, court a little bit, give them a good solid shopping experience before you can just flat out ask them to get into a retail experience. At least that's my opinion, but I'd love to get your perspective as well.
No, I agree. And that's where I was leading with it as well, in terms of what the content should actually do, whether it's comparison pages, model pages, brand comparison, obviously the big one that everybody is talking about. And, I've been talking about it for probably a decade more. It's the FAQs. That's bleeding into right now what's happening with the way the results are happening, whether they're FAQs, AI overviews, AI mode, any other AI type of platform. The bottom line is the search engines are looking for some place to reference.
Yes.
And if you don't have that as a starting point, you're still going to be invisible. And it just comes down to having those types of elements. My other favorite sticking point right now, the second one that I was going to mention, Jason, is the fact that we're still in an environment where you have SRPs and everybody knows this and everybody has seen it. You got the stack of CTA buttons, and sometimes they're duplicated. Sometimes they open up the same form. But here's the crazy part. About 80% of our visitors to the sites are all coming on your mobile phone, obviously. 100%. And yet in the mobile experience, none of those buttons are click to call. Now I have started to see, to the credit of for some platforms, that when you switch over from desktop to a mobile view,
Yep.
the views change. You still got a stack of buttons, but thankfully, at least the first one is a click to call. But here's a quick remedy,
Mhm.
a quick, easy takeaway for anybody listening. Grab Microsoft Clarity heat map script. It's free. It's a Microsoft product. Add that to your site. Wait a couple days. Collect the data, and you start to see where the taps, the scrolls, the clicks. You'll see rage clicks.
Yeah.
You'll see funnels, and it's amazing. That way you're not arguing with somebody's subjective opinion and saying, "Oh, I like blue better than red," or "Move this here, take this out." Now you can literally see, "Hey, you know what? You got an icon here, and people are
Mhm.
trying to click it. It's not even clickable."
It happens all the time. I see it all the time, Eric. Okay, like there's a lot of opinions around CTAs. I might have a pretty aggressive opinion about it, and it's funny because I actually take it right back to what I first was really kind of talking about was my very first job at Radio Shack. All right, what you got questions? We have answers. Why do I need 15 different buttons to tell you ultimately what question I actually have, when in reality, I just want to ask my question and get right into it. And the other thing too, and look, this is not for everybody out there, but you guys have to understand, as an industry, we have destroyed these buttons. There are many things that we've done over the years. My favorite one, you remember, Eric, remember the e-price button?
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh. I mean, don't get me wrong. We'll put this magical button on your website, and I guarantee you're going to get 40% more leads overnight. And you did. Right? Here's the problem. I don't know of a customer that ever got an e-price.
No, it comes down to one simple rule.
Yep.
We love to say, if your content doesn't move someone closer or speed up the process to a sale or a service visit,
Mhm.
it doesn't deserve to exist. Anyways, it's a futile attempt.
I like that. And I think for anybody out there watching, listening, you guys should do kind of a quick audit of your website, because if you really want something that's going to kill your performance, that will kill your performance, right? If
I'll be
it's,
the first one to tell a dealer, go shop on your own website for a car.
I like that.
And
Yeah.
here's the problem, Jason. You can appreciate this. Dealers don't shop for cars.
No.
They already have their car. So why do they need to go through that process? But they need to subject themselves to that same process itself and do a test. I'll take a real quick story on this. Back in the day when we were building some of the pages for that auction site I mentioned,
Mhm.
for our first dealer, my son at the time was about 10 or 11 years old. That was right when he started getting online and he was using eBay. They were in their early stages.
Sure.
You know what my son said to me when I gave him the page? I said, "Hey, take a look at this page. What do you think the objective or the goal is?" He goes, "Well, it looks like you want me to place a bid on the car." He goes, "Why can't I just put it in the shopping cart and buy it?" It was from a 10-year-old. It's like,
Sure.
man, it's simplicity at its finest. So, I mean, it's all about removing the friction from any type of process that you have. But yet, what do we still do, Jason, on the website? We still wind up putting a finance center and a
Yes.
service center that users have to go to in order to get to the service scheduler or the finance app. Yeah,
100%.
just flip those, or if anything, hide the center page. It's still valuable. Sure, it's got content on it, but what do they truly want? They want to get to the application. They want to
Yeah.
get to the scheduler.
They do. They just like make it easy, make it quick, right? And,
Yeah.
and guys, keep in mind, you also look, if you're gonna be putting out that many CTAs, I find it kind of lazy, because really what you're saying is that just tell me what you want, and then I'll kind of get back to you. But here's the other thing too I find with these CTAs, and this is, by the way, I love the click to call or click to text, or I love any of those because boom, immediate conversation. But I mean, come on, I gotta put my first name, my last name, my email address, my blood type, my shoe size, my firstborn, just for that email to then get sent off to this mystical product called a CRM, which then I'm gonna get an automated response that's gonna tell me, "Thank you for my inquiry. But you know what? We'll get back to you when the hell it's convenient for us. Not when it's convenient for you, just when it's convenient for us.
Sure.
And I'll call you about 9 times during the working hours." To try to get, anyways, I'm off the soapbox. I apologize.
Again, my take on that is just the website shouldn't just look good.
Yes.
It's got to act literally like a salesperson who actually closes the deal.
It does. And that's kind of a perfect segue kind of into our next conversation because we were going to talk a little bit, and we've talked a little bit already about the evolution of the dealer website, right? And, from its original format of being a digital brochure to being a revenue engine. And it really should be a revenue engine. Guys, Eric, I want to get your thoughts on this because I still think too many dealers out there are thinking of these as lead engines, lead providers. There's a bit of a mind shift, a difference in kind of methodology and approach when you think of it as a revenue engine. And I think you guys have done a great job of kind of approaching it more as a revenue engine, but I'd love to get your thoughts on the difference.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, and that matches and pairs exactly with our philosophy and approach.
Mhm.
In order for us to drive excellence and operational improvements, for the dealer, obviously we need to be able to attract the right type of user. In market, mid funnel, low funnel, ready to act. Owning your backyard, owning the areas around you. But again, how does that happen? How do we make that happen? It starts with the right structure, getting the right pages in there, the location-based pages. Obviously, like I said before, leaderboards, body style pages. It could be, the model specific pages, obviously. And then on top of that, as I said before, stacking those 4 different locations, being able to target that, own your backyard first. And then from there, that's how we dominate, help the dealers dominate by publishing those out to the right campaigns, obviously on paid search,
Yes.
but being able to target obviously on organic. We call it total search because we don't just manage one segment. It's not just one channel. You put those 2 together. You have to marry those 2 channels together. And the dealers that do, they get greater leads, greater targeted traffic, better engagement. Obviously, it completely dominates, as I said. But being able to put those all together into that total search package, that's the winning combination. Quite actually, it's a marriage between acquiring that traffic,
Yes.
and then being able to convert it. But not only that, it just doesn't end there. There has to be that linear path where the dealer is engaged to the point where they're honest with themselves about their own internal CRM and showroom processes, because those leads come in, they have to have that process. We see it all the time, unfortunately, Jason, where we have a situation where the campaigns perform well, exceptionally well, low cost, high efficiency, increasing leads. But unfortunately, the dealer just isn't seeing sometimes the end result. And once we work with the dealer, and that's why it's literally in our name, dealer teamwork. We work with the dealer.
You work with the dealer. You're actually partnering with them. Yeah.
We have to understand what's going on when the lead comes into the dealer. And then we work together sometimes to be able to understand, hey, you know what? You got leads that either aren't being processed right, or sometimes they're just being missed, or sometimes they're not going through the full process. And then when the 2 minds come together, that's when the light bulb honestly goes off, and that's when we see the greatest success. We work with an incredibly high number of top 10 and top 20 dealers in the country, even publicly traded groups. And so these dealers understand the importance of the operational excellence on that side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to pair, like I said, well and marry together with the acquisition effort, because everybody knows that there is no magic bullet, in terms of one campaign, one page, one keyword, one ad. Everything has to be firing together.
What? Wait, Eric, there's not a set of levers and buttons that us marketers and website providers push and pull to make no, I'm sorry. I'm being a little upset. But I'm sure I do. Look, I've gotten those phone calls before from dealers before. Hey, Jason, can we turn that up? I'm like, absolutely. I'm just going to go into the lead producing room and I'll find your button and I'll just go ahead and crank it up for you a little bit. But no, guys, real quick, what Eric's laying down for you guys is so insanely important, right? And you're hearing it that the top performers in our industry are looking at this as in a holistic approach, right? I mean, think about it. Your website, again, handles 90% of that customer's journey. And to kind of break it down, we've talked a little bit about it before, right? Everything from just consideration into and then the journey handing off into the shopping, and then the shopping handing off into the online retail, and then finally, and Eric nailed this, I mean, you have to have the right people and the right process and the right technology to bridge that online retail experience to that in-store retail experience. And I think this is what really makes a big difference in the operator. And this is where a lot of things can fall apart. Wouldn't you agree?
I completely. And one other item I'll add to that too that we continuously experience is, unfortunately, as you know, every dealer will have a Google Analytics account, GA4 account. Well, it should be standard practice for the vendors that you're working with that they make their own, especially when someone's handling the paid search like we are. So we make another Google Analytics profile. We ensure that it's set up properly. It's got the proper tagging, the right events, the right classifications, just everything that you would need. You know, the right data streams, the right data layers. But unfortunately, dealers just with, you know, muscle memory, they'll go back to their original GA4 profile. And of course, things aren't going to line up.
Sure.
So that dealers have to be mindful of which profile they're looking at, or at least include that data layer within the other profile. You know, and those are just things, unfortunately, that, you know, in the weeds, in the minutia type of items that some dealers just may gloss over. But those are types of things that have to be taken into consideration. But more importantly, is paying attention to how that is actually set up and why it's set up that way. Because the tracking is needed. I mean, there's at the end of the day, I don't care who you're talking to in the dealership, but yeah, everybody's mindset, you know, whether you're in marketing, sales, finance, you know, and especially leadership and management, and obviously the dealer principal, they're curious every single time we talk to them. What are my calls? What are my chats? You know, what are my form submissions? What are my calls from ads? And what are my showroom visits? You know, there's your big five right there.
Well, and look, Eric, real quick, because you list 5, and we know that there's like 20 others. And this is like, you're 100% right on the GA4. And this is why, you know, we talked a little bit about the evolution. And you guys, look, Eric, you were there. I was there. All right. When at one point in time, a website was a tool, it's not a tool. All right. It is a part of your operations, a direct extension of your physical being or your physical dealership. It's a direct extension of your physical dealership. And that is why it's so important to find a partner. All right. I mean, I still see this too often where dealers are treating this just as a tool, proverbial checkbox, right? Like, I got my website done. Like,
Yeah.
no, you need to find, and this is why I love dealer teamwork, right? And I love Eric because look, it's in their name, guys. Teamwork. They're here to partner with you guys and to be able to roll. And you guys, I'm telling you right now, you can rely, you push back. I mean, I love Eric because I know you get into some pretty intimate conversations with some of your dealers where they're just, hey guys, this is my objectives. What can you guys do to help? Because that's what a good partner does. And I know you guys do that on a pretty regular basis. Is there any example maybe you can share with me real quick of how that's played out for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, once we start really peeling back the onion, and I'll be honest with you too, the conversations can be a little difficult at times because, you know, we like to joke that, you know, unfortunately we're calling the baby ugly, and no dealer wants to admit that. Sure. But if to be honest with you, where it really starts off with is just gaining and earning that dealer's trust.
Great.
And as soon as we get that, then, you know, then it's fair game in terms of what the conversation is, because once they realize, hey, we're here to truly help you because we can spot these weaknesses and these gaps, and we just want to plug the holes. Mm-hmm. It's all about just, you know, answering these questions quickly and honestly and directly, and being as upfront as possible. You know, we don't give suggestions. We don't read the news. Nobody wants to get on a call these days, and sure, it still happens, but nobody wants to, you know, get on a call where somebody is just saying, hey, you got X number of clicks 30 days ago. All right, I'll talk to you in 30 days from now. You know,
that's
nobody
definitely
wants
not a revenue engine. I mean, that's definitely not a revenue engine. Guys, this is, I love the fact that you're watching this episode right now, because what you're hearing is you're hearing the difference between a vendor and a partner, a vendor partner, right? And there's look, there's a lot of companies out there, like a vending machine. They'll let you come put your dollar in and get your product, all right? But there's difference between having a vendor partner. Look, I know we're getting towards our tail end of our time, but I do want to get into kind of because our last topic, and I think it's a good one, preparing your website strategy for 2026 and beyond. Obviously, for me, that first thing is find the right partner. All right. But man, there's a lot of things going on right now. Like what's changing with search, there's AI. I mean, shoppers' behavior, attribution, and how dealers should be thinking just differently heading into the next few years, or even just this new year. I'd love to kind of get your perspective on like what should we be thinking about strategy wise for 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, great way to end the call. I think the best way is to reposition everybody's core philosophy and think, like I've said before, we're approaching it as total search, not a siloed channel, not just doing SEO with one company, not just doing paid search, not just doing paid search alone with no SEO at all. Forgetting and just completely forgetting about the social channels as well, but balancing out all the channels together. Merchandising obviously the vehicles correctly, including obviously the payments, the offers, the incentives, and that's where it's crucial for that data to be able to align correctly with the right types of pages. And those pages don't just end with having a static widget that pumps in payments and without any additional information. That's what we talked about before. The big misstep. It needs to have the structure, the questions and answers. It needs to be able to give the data, the stats, the items that are going to help give that chain of thought processing to help move the shopper through that buying process faster without any friction. It's gotta remove that. Expose the truth, help shoppers improve their decisions. Accountability has to be a huge element of it, both from a partner standpoint, like we're taking and like I'm describing, but also accountability on the dealership side, just in terms of being able to manage those key metrics and those KPIs operationally to be able to put those two together, as I said before.
Well, it's definitely a two-way road, man. I hear you 100%.
Yeah, but I think it comes down to those key operational aspects of acquiring that traffic. Like one big thing that we've been really, really pushing for years now is our precision spending type of approach. Being able to truly monitor down to the day and the hour in terms of what's happening with my campaign. We're not going to make a misstep and just suddenly pull the lever and spend it all at the end of the month. We're not going to front load it, just because we're going to try to get a push, subjectively on the competition. It's being able to understand all of those aspects of the campaign, the competition, the market, the brand, what the behavior signals are. And again, putting those all together into that core strategy for, as I said before, the COPE method, the creating once, publish everywhere, so that no matter where somebody is, as we've said this for years, everybody's fighting for eyeballs, but no matter where somebody looks, at least the dealer's brand and their messaging and their pricing and their merchandising is all consistent, and being able to drive that back to the brand experience within the dealership. That's
so important, right? It's the consistency to the commitment of that brand. And a little side note, I love the fact that you brought FAQs up, because me and you've been in this business long enough to remember just how incredibly important those were in early days. And now it's like, some things that are old just become new again. And you guys have taken some serious strides and some big commitments to ensure, to your point of the creation of the one time, right? I love the fact, because we've been talking about for years, content's king, it needs to be content's king, right? But you got to find the partner that is approaching that, because AI search is so heavy right now. And it's just, and those searches need that content. It's not enough that you guys just have inventory and price anymore. I can't drive this point home to you anymore. It's not enough. You got to find a partner like Eric and the guys over at Dealer Teamwork, to ensure that you're fulfilling all shopping places and all acquisition opportunities. Eric, any last thoughts before we kind of let everybody go?
Yeah, I think I'll leave you with this thought. And I love telling dealers this. It's the irony of everything that's happening with the AI movement right now, especially with search and SEO specifically. AI isn't replacing SEO basics or any SEO tactics or anything like that. It's actually what it's doing is it's literally exposing the people who never did it right in the first place.
There you go. I love it. That you are so 100% right on that. And guys, there is. I mean, I think for many years, I think SEO is kind of sold, and I hate to say it, as a snake oil. All right, not everybody. There were a lot of great companies out there that are doing it right, but I think unfortunately a lot of it. And now you're right. This is exposing it. Hey guys, look, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time, but I still don't think, Eric, we've covered absolutely everything. I mean, we definitely probably covered 4.5 things
At least.
Maybe
very least.
more, definitely some more than that. But Eric, for everybody out there watching, listening right now, who would love to maybe continue some of this conversation or connect with you or learn about more what you guys are doing at NADA, what's the booth number? What's the best?
Stop by our booth, Dealer Teamwork, 6520 North. And simple key takeaway. We've got some great new things that we're releasing and we're super excited about. But the key message and theme this year: no hype, no fear tactics, no mystery math, whatever anybody else is trying to position it as. You're going to hear a lot about AI. Yeah, so you got to be prepared for that, and just don't get sucked into the buzz. This is the time to pay attention to the fact that this is literally the new shiny object. So in terms of understanding what is the decision your AI makes, what happens if I turn it off, at least show me an example of a KPI where the AI helped improve things. Those are the questions that dealers need to be prepared to ask back and push back. Because just because you put a bow on the pig, as we like to say, and call it AI, it's not AI. We're talking about things that are basically just glorified automation systems. But we've got something really neat in our patented platform, the MPOP. But we've got a lot of really cool things that we'd love to share with you at NADA. So come by, see me, Sean, Anissa, Peter, Guy, Adam. We got the whole team this year.
That's awesome. And guys, look, there's a lot of great takeaways here, but you can hear the importance of making sure your mindset around your website is a revenue engine. Not just a lead engine, it's a revenue engine. And find a partner like the guys at Dealer Teamwork that's going to help you guys get that. And yes, from an AI, look, if it's not a revenue engine value, then it's just a big shiny thing, guys, and you can kind of stay away from it. Hey, look, one of the biggest compliments you can give us as content creators is to share the show. Okay, look, I know you're not gonna smash the subscribe button or hit the like button or whatever. I know you guys are gonna do that because you're a bunch of dealers. But all right, biggest compliment you can ever give us is share the show. Right? If you got a manager or a colleague that needs to hear some part of today's conversation, share the show. It means a lot to us. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to join me. This has been an absolute blast. You guys have yourself an amazing day. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Your host, Jason Harris. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy